Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Fantastic Footnotes podcast. I just wanted to pop in here real quick before the first episode starts and kind of let you know that we know the audio on this particular episode is not great. We have fixed it for the episodes going forward, but we chose to stick with the original audio because we did not want to lose the authenticity of Chris hearing it for the first time and asking the questions. We didn't want it to sound robotic if we re-recorded it. So we know it's not great. Stick with us for this episode, and we promise it is fixed for next time.
You should have heard the old men cry. You should have heard the biddies, when that sad stranger raised his flute and piped away the kiddies. Katie, Tommy, Meg, and Bob followed, skipping gaily. Red-haired Ruth, my brother Rob, and little crippled Bailey. John and Nils and Cousin Claire, dancin', spinnin', turnin', cross the hills to God knows where, they never came returnin'. Cross the hills to God knows where, the piper pranced, a-leadin', each child in Hamelin town but me, and I stayed home unheedin'. My papa said that I was blessed, for if that music found me, I'd be witchcast like all the rest, this town grows old around me. I cannot say I did not hear that sound so haunting, hollow. I heard it clear. I was afraid to follow. The one who stayed, Shel Silverstein. Welcome to tonight's first episode of Fantastic Footnotes. And as you can see, we're going to talk about the Pied Piper.
All right.
What up, Tina?
Are you ready to do it? It's our first episode of Fantastic Footnotes.
I am so excited to talk about Silicon Valley. You have no idea.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Wait, what?
No, okay. All right, so housekeeping stuff real quick. This is our first episode. We're super happy that you are here.
Absolutely.
This episode is going to be a creepier episode. We're going to do some episodes that are more like straight up history, that's just unknown history.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I like a little dark side in my stuff, so we'll have some dark side episodes.
Yes, you're very goth, honey.
Anyways, housekeeping wise, like I said, we're glad you're here, but also make sure if you are following us on Substack that you look at our YouTube. This will all be visual on YouTube if you're on YouTube, and if you're watching us on YouTube, check out our Substack, because I did set up the paid levels. It's not expensive, but I'm working on some newsletters and stuff like that. So, and there is no paid level just to listen to the podcast. So feel free to just sign up, subscribe, and just have us there.
Enjoy this.
If you were listening on the podcast, he is pointing to his face.
I was, yeah, that's true. Yep, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's why we have to do YouTube, because I talk with my hands so much.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you ready?
I was born ready.
All right, so our topic today is the Pied Piper.
Yeah, from Silicon Valley.
No, not from Silicon. Okay, so there is a lot of references to the Pied Piper. Like, I was reading up on references and songs, and I didn't even think about it, but of course, Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin references the Piper.
It does. Oh, yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Eminem has a reference in... What's that song where he's like, Mom, spaghetti, blah, blah, blah? That song.
You better lose yourself?
Yeah, lose yourself. There's the phrase, pay the piper, which comes from the Pied Piper.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you'll get it, because you don't know the story of the Pied Piper.
No. Should we go over our format since this is our first one? So you've done all the research.
Yeah.
I am the voice of the listener who is sitting there in their car or their house or doing whatever, going, wait a minute, what did he say?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to ask the questions and tell the jokes.
And I do the research
Right.
and tell the story.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've gone over, Pied Piper is in popular references all over. Like you keep saying Silicon Valley. If you don't know, that's a TV show. And their company was called Pied Piper.
Pied Piper, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So references everywhere. But I feel like everybody kind of knows, the Pied Piper, but doesn't really know, the story behind the Pied Piper.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of get the Pied Piper and St. Patrick, who played music and got the rats to leave Ireland, right? Isn't that the story?
No.
No?
St. Patrick was snakes.
Oh.
And the funny thing about that is there was no snakes in Ireland.
Was there music, though?
I don't recall St. Patrick having music go along with him.
Okay.
Okay, anyway. So I'll tell you the story of the Pied Piper.
Okay, tell me the story of the Pied Piper.
The two most famous versions of this story are
Wait,
from...
is this one of the times where, like, the actual origin of the Pied Piper is lost in history, so there may be several different theories as to who Mr. Piper was?
Sort of.
Okay, great.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
Okay, so the two most famous versions of the Pied Piper we have are from a poem from Robert Browning, and that was written in 1842.
Okay.
And then the Grimm brothers wrote a story about the Pied Piper in 1816.
Okay.
Now, I know this, you might know this. A lot of people think that the Grimm brothers just made up stories and wrote them down.
Well, according to the TV show, they were actually, like talking about real creatures. They were just doing it in, like, funny ways.
It was a good show. But
so the Brothers Grimm collected other fairy tales from history and wrote them down.
Right. They were trying to kind of get, build some German pride in some of the German folk tales and legends and things. So they collected these stories from kind of like, the old wise person in your family that knows all these stories.
Gotcha.
And they went around and collected the stories rather than wrote the story.
So necessarily there's going to be multiple versions of a Grimm Brothers story.
Right.
Okay,
so basic story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin goes like this. Okay, there was a town in Germany named Hamelin.
Okay.
And they were absolutely overrun with rats. It was a huge problem for this town. And so the city council basically got together, and while they were meeting, the Pied Piper shows up.
Can I stop you right now already?
Yes.
Is it I'm sure Hamelin exists.
Yes.
Have we been able to historically prove there was a rat problem in Hamelin?
No.
Okay.
So, let me finish the story.
I'm supposed to be asking the questions that are occurring to the listener.
Okay. So, the Pied Piper shows up. And what pied actually means, like when I was little, I used to think it was a guy that had pie on his face. But pied actually means multicolored clothes. And in a lot of the stories, it's yellow and red. Okay, so the Pied Piper shows up in yellow and red clothes. He says, I'm going to solve your problem for you. I can get the rats out of the town. And the mayor and the city council were like, yes, please. And in a lot of stories, well, in some versions, they agree on a sum of like 1,000 guilders, right? And so the mayor says, great, go get the rats out of the town. And they didn't really believe he could do it. But whatever. They're desperate at this point. So the Pied Piper pulls his flute out, or in some cases his like panpipes. You know what I'm talking about?
I thought it was more of a clarinet than a flute. Like, it seems like all the pictures I've seen.
Yeah, there's all different. It was some sort of wind instrument. Okay? And he pulls this out and starts playing, and all of the rats come out of the town and follow him.
Got it.
And he leads them into the river, and they drown. And then he goes back to city council. He's like, done and done. Where's my money? And the city council's like, we actually don't have that much money. And also, it seems like all the rats are dead now, so what are you going to do about it if we don't pay you? Right? So, in some versions of the story, they offer him like 50 guilders instead of 1,000. One way or the other.
He's cheated.
He is cheated.
Damn 1%ers.
Yes. So, he is basically like, you will pay me, which is where the term you're going to pay the piper is coming from.
Got it.
And so he shows up a few days later, and he pulls out his pipe again. And in some versions of the story, this time he's wearing green, like hunting green.
See, that's interesting, because I was saying I've only ever seen him in green, so...
Yeah, okay. Well, and you said you mixed him up with St. Patrick, which that kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
but, so he's wearing green in some versions of the story. In some versions of the story, all of the adults are in church. In other versions of the stories, the adults are just unable to do anything about it as this is happening. Okay?
Yep.
But one way or the other, he pulls his flute out again, and instead of leading the rats out of the city, he takes all of the children. Now, the children in some versions, there's different endings, right?
Okay.
So in some versions, they go into the river and drown, just like the rats. In some versions, they straight up disappear.
Right.
In some versions, he leads them into a cave in the side of a hill that then closes behind them. And then in other versions, weirdly enough, he opens a portal
To
and
hell,
they go
right?
no, to Transylvania.
To Transylvania.
Yeah.
To hang out with Dracula?
No.
Okay.
Just to Transylvania. Like they go east in a portal.
Is that like we always say, you know, you're going to Timbuktu as a place that's far away. Did Transylvania have some sort of cultural significance at the time?
That I don't
Is
know.
that like
I mean, we'll kind of get into that in a minute about Transylvania.
Okay.
But the weird thing about Transylvania is like a portal. Like
I'm telling you, Dracula.
it's an odd choice of words,
All
right?
Bram Stoker.
So, those are some different endings to the story, and then there's different versions of who was saved. In some versions, it's only kids over 4 went, which makes sense because they're not going to be able to really
Right.
walk and follow the
He's
piper.
probably not carrying kids around in their diapers to take them
Right.
to Transylvania. Okay.
And then in other versions of the story, certain kids get left behind. Like there's one version that has a deaf kid, a blind kid, and a lame kid that get left behind because the deaf kid couldn't hear the music.
Mm.
The blind kid could not follow because he couldn't see, and then the lame kid couldn't keep up, so he gets left behind.
So is that a good thing, or is that like making fun of children with disabilities?
I think it was a good thing because they were able to tell the grown-ups what happened.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's kind of how the grown-ups knew what happened.
Got
is
it.
because
Okay.
these kids were like, you know, the blind kid's like, I heard this flute, and everybody started following, you know, and you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are, you know, different versions of the story. So you might be thinking like, this is a history podcast. Why are we talking about this fantastical fairy tale that obviously didn't happen because people don't catch rats with flutes and lead children out
You
of
don't
the
know.
city?
Have you ever played a flute for a rat?
I didn't play a flute for rat,
Okay.
but I did look up that part of the story to see if there was any significance about rats following certain things or whatever. And scientists have studied rats and music because they're studying a lot of animals and music.
Right.
And they're studying rats, you know, in part to see if music has healing qualities, you know, yada yada. And there was some evidence that rats would follow a certain sound at a certain frequency, but it wasn't to this point, right? Like they might pop their heads out and be curious, but they weren't going to actually
Leave their warrens or whatever.
Right.
Got it.
And it was only for rats. They found that it was only for rats that were very well fed and felt very safe. Like,
Okay.
so wild rats, maybe they would be well fed, but they wouldn't, I don't think, feel like safe,
Okay.
you know? And the sound, the frequency of the sound mimicked rats laughing. Because, like, if you tickle rats, they make little sounds.
I see. Okay.
And so it was kind of like a comfort noise for them.
Okay.
But it didn't seem like there was any evidence that they'd actually follow sound like that.
So how often is it flute and how often is it panpipes?
I don't know. I found just a mix.
Okay.
A lot of them just said pipe, so you don't know really what it was.
Well, I was just thinking because the satyrs played pipes, right, in Greek mythology,
Yeah, they did.
and then a lot of our concept of the devil is based off of satyrs.
Yes,
So you're going to tell me there's a link between all of that?
maybe. We'll get
Okay.
into it.
Outstanding.
Okay, so first, we needed to go over the evidence that maybe this isn't completely a fairy tale.
Okay.
Okay.
I like it.
So, evidence-wise, this, according to multiple sources, happened on June 26th, 1284. So very specific days. Okay? So it happened in 1284 in the town of Hamelin, Germany.
Okay.
And there is a church in Hamelin, the Church of St. Nikolai. And yes, that's St. Nikolai.
Oh, like Christmas St. Nicholas.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah. And because he was apparently the patron saint of, like, merchants and
Musically
sailors?
inclined rodents.
no sailors,
Okay. All right.
and their town is right on the
The river?
river Weser, which is probably a Weser. Right. Yeah. So they had a big merchant
Oh, is that so?
population.
Is that like the Mississippi or something like that? It's a mercantile river.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So this church had a window in the church. It was a stained glass window, and the church has been around since 1300. And according to some sources, the window dates back to 1300, which would be pretty close to the time
Right.
of these kids' disappearance. And in the window, the stained glass window, there's a picture of a man dressed in multicolored clothes, and then underneath of him are kids in white. Now, the window itself got destroyed in the year 1660.
Okay.
And I heard one source said that it was a fire, but it just said part of the church was damaged.
Okay.
And so we don't have the window anymore, but what we do have are several accounts of people in like the 15th and 16th centuries that saw the window and wrote down descriptions of the window, so we know it was there.
So nobody sketched it or anything?
Not that I found anybody sketched
Okay.
it, but this guy, I'll show you, and I'll link this on our Substack in the newsletter and whatever.
Okay.
But this is a picture, a guy recreated the window for the church
Wow.
based on what the descriptions were.
So it looks like a man. He's not holding a musical instrument. It doesn't. look
Right, it
like.
doesn't look like he's holding a musical instrument, and there are a lot of children underneath of him
Yeah.
dressed
Okay.
in white.
Below him, underneath him feels weird.
Okay.
But yeah, so he's like, almost like it looks like they're standing on risers almost. Like he's at the top and they're.
Yeah, it almost looks like it could be a chorus.
Yeah.
And he has his hands like this,
Yep,
like he's praying.
Yep.
But definitely not in like priestly garb.
He is not. That is true. It's red and blue and orangish yellow.
Yeah, or maybe green. It could be greenish depending on which way you look at it. But yeah, definitely pied clothing.
Yes.
Okay, so that was in the church back to maybe 1300. So
Okay.
just very recently after this event supposedly happened.
Right.
Was that 16 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The town records of Hamelin in the year 1384 have a note in them, and all the note says is, "It is 100 years since our children left." End. Okay.
Okay. That's a little weird.
Yes. Now this next one is this one gets a little weird, okay? I found different sources that kind of say different things about it. But from what I gather, there was a guy, and his name was Heinrich von Herod, okay? And he had a book. It was a choral book, like a singing book, okay? He had a book that was from his friend, Deacon Luda. And in the back of this book, he found a description of this event, and apparently Deacon Luda's either mother or grandmother had told him about this because she was an eyewitness to this event. Yeah, right?
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to read you that description.
So when the Pied Piper comes back for the children, is he still playing music? He is, right? Cause,
Yeah, he plays
Okay.
music to lead the kids out.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
I am.
It's kind of long, but it's interesting because this is supposedly an eyewitness account that
Okay.
this Heinrich von Herod found written kind of as a footnote in a book from his friend.
Okay.
Okay, so it says, "Here follows a marvelous wonder, which transpired in the town of Hamelin in the Diocese of Minden in this year of our Lord 1284, on the feast of St. John and St. Paul. A certain young man, 30 years of age, handsome and well dressed, so that all who saw him admired him because of his appearance, crossed the bridges and entered the town by the west gate. He then began to play all through the town a silver pipe of the most magnificent sort. All the children who heard his pipe, in the number of 130, followed him to the east gate and out of the town to the so-called execution place, or Calvary. There they proceeded to vanish so that no trace of them could be found. The mothers of the children ran from town to town, but they found nothing. It is written, a voice was heard from on high, and a mother was bewailing her son. And as one counts the years according to the year of our Lord, or according to the first, second, or third year of an anniversary, so do these people in Hamelin reckon the years after the departure and disappearance of their children. And then it says, this report I found in an old book, and the mother of the Dean Johann von Lude saw the children depart. So, interesting to know. What do you not hear in that story?
Rats?
Rats. The rats didn't come into the story until later. Because
okay, so finish your thought. I got questions.
Yeah, there's no rats in the window.
Yeah.
There's no mention of the rats in the town paper, and there are town records.
Yeah.
And there's no mention of rats in this supposed eyewitness account. So the first mention of rats that we have comes from sometime in the early 1500s from something called a Zimmern Chronicle.
Okay.
Which is basically the Zimmern family wrote down a whole bunch of the family history, and they reference this story in their historic chronicle of their family.
But they also mention rats.
Talk about rats.
Can we go back to that quote real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so he comes from the west, but leads them east.
Mm-hmm.
He's very attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Read the part about cavalry again.
They followed him to the east gate and out of the town to the so-called execution place or Calvary.
So like where Jesus was crucified.
Right.
For those of you listening to the podcast, I just blinked about 4 times in succession. So, I mean, if you just look at the Christian iconography alone on that, it is... The Pied Piper is clearly the devil.
Yeah, there's some thoughts to that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
All right, so beyond that, I talked about the Zimmern Chronicle. There is a house in Hamelin called the Rat Catcher's House. It was built in 1602, and it has an inscription on the side of the house. Now, we're at 1602, so we're getting to be about 300 years.
Right.
300 years on. So the inscription on the side of the house reads, AD 1284, on the 26th of June, the day of St. John and St. Paul, 130 children born in Hamelin were led out of the town by a piper wearing multicolored clothes. After passing the Calvary near the Koppenberg, they disappeared forever.
Huh.
Yeah, the Koppenberg is like the name of a hill that's close by.
Okay.
Okay. Then there's another house inscription dating from sometime between 1610 and 1617 in Hamelin. And it says, in the year of our Lord 1284 went into the Koppen under custody 130 children born in Hamelin by a piper seduced and lost. And then there's a town gate. I missed this one. This one dates from 1556, so a little bit earlier. The town gate was laid in 1556, and on that there's an inscription that says, 272 years after the magician stole 130 children from the city. There's also still a street in Hamelin, and I'm going to mess up the pronunciation of this. It's Bungel Osenstrasse. Means the street without drums. Apparently to this day you're not allowed to dance or play music on this street because this is the last place that the children were seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Now, I will say,
yeah,
Hamelin has totally embraced this whole situation, and like you can go there and buy like
Pied Piper merch.
Oh yeah, they have a Pied Piper tour through the town. There's a whole museum of the Pied Piper. You can go to bakeries and they have little cakes shaped like rats. Which doesn't sound super appetizing to me, but I still want to go to Hamelin. So they have embraced it. So I don't know if it's still necessarily like tradition that you don't sing and dance on that street, or if now it's just become like, ooh, this is the street where we can't sing because, you know.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like at this point we can agree something happened to some kids in Hamelin in the year 1284.
Seems reasonable. Okay.
But now the question is, what?
What?
What? Okay. You ready to hear the theories?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you the theories.
Okay.
And then, obviously, you ask me questions about the theories. You can come up with your own theories.
Do you have a favorite theory?
I don't know if I have a favorite. But we'll talk about that at the end. Like, what theory do you think is the most likely? Okay, so theory number 1 is kind of what you were saying. Not exactly the devil, but that the piper is more a metaphor for death. Like the pictures of, like, the Dance of the Dead with the skeletons. And this has translated into a piper leading them to death.
Was the Dance of the Dead a German thing? I
think it was a medieval thing.
Okay.
And so the thought is maybe it was a landslide that killed them. Maybe a plague that killed 130 children. And some people associate it with the Black Plague because of the rats. And the Black Plague, they have found evidence of it up to 3000 BC.
Okay.
And then, of course, the Plague of Justinian happened in, like, 541 AD. That was the Black Plague.
Yeah, of course.
But the big plague, the Black Death that we all think about, didn't really get started until the mid-1300s.
So there are people who say they got COVID before COVID. So, I mean, maybe.
Well, yeah. So I'm not saying it couldn't have been the plague, nor am I saying it couldn't have been something completely different that killed all these kids. But to me, was it only kids? Like, and why are there so many mentions of a Pied Piper and the musician and, like, a magician? And, like, why were they led to the hill? I don't know. It just seems like if it was death, I get that people use, like,
metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it seems weird to me.
Okay.
What do you think?
It doesn't feel right to me.
Okay. The second theory that I've heard quite a bit is a children's crusade. Do you know what a children's crusade is?
Do you know what a children's crusade was?
Okay, so listeners that don't know what a children's crusade is. So they were trying to go take back the Holy Land, basically. And the theory is that they had children's crusades because...
There was one, like the Third Crusade. Wasn't that a children's crusade?
Here's the thing. A lot of scholars think that it never happened.
That's weird, because when I was in high school, it was presented as historical fact.
Yeah, and from what I'm reading, a lot of scholars think it didn't happen. And if it did happen, date is usually about 1212.
Okay.
So before this time. But the thought was, from what I was reading, that basically kids were young and innocent enough that they could convince the Muslims to,
repent.
Yeah. Because they were innocent.
Repent sounds the right word. Turn.
Yeah.
Sorry, Muslims. I didn't mean anything by that. That would have been the theory, I guess. To turn away. Yeah,
right. Okay, that the innocence of the children would sway their minds or something. But,
yeah, that's not my understanding. The way I always thought was all of the children basically were captured, killed, or enslaved. So it didn't end well, if I understand.
No, I imagine it wouldn't have if it happened. But like I said, now they're saying that they're not even sure it did. But if it did, it would have happened, 70 years before this. 1212 is the date that kept coming up for that.
And it seems like it wouldn't have just come from Hamelin. It would have come from other German towns. Okay. That's interesting, though.
Okay. Another theory has to do with pagans and Christians. And it can go either way. Okay, so June 26th was apparently the date that would have been, like, midsummer festivals.
Okay.
And so some people say that the children were Christians and kidnapped by the pagans to go do these rituals for the midsummer festivals.
Okay.
Other people say that these children were pagan, and as they were headed out to do their rituals, the Christians were upset that they were doing pagan rituals and murdered them all. So...
I mean, either of those seems somewhat plausible.
Somewhat plausible, but still, it wouldn't just be children, you wouldn't think. The kids wouldn't be out there doing pagan rituals on their own. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like, you think it would be adults, too.
I mean, children are very impressionable. Maybe they found a a book at the Walmart that's just kidding. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, but child sacrifice is a pagan thing. I don't know.
I think that
Could they have been
I think that is overplayed in pagan religions of child sacrifice, especially quote modern ones.
Go to the Bible, look in the Book of Kings. It happened. Child sacrifice was a thing.
That's not modern. This is AD. Okay, I know part of the Bible is AD too. I get it. All right. Next thought is the dancing plague. You know what a dancing plague is?
Doesn't it like make your muscles spasm so that you like look like you're dancing, but you like die because you basically shake yourself to death?
Yeah, sorta. Okay, so the most famous dancing plague happened in like 1518 in France.
Okay.
There were 400 people participating. And basically what happened is a lady came out and just started dancing. And then everyone started following her. And it went on for 2 months. They'd dance until they were too tired, collapse, and then they'd get back up and dance again. It happened multiple times through history. And in fact, it did happen in 1237 in a German town called Erfurt. And the people danced and left the town and walked 12 miles. So there is some thought that it could be dancing plague.
So, like, what causes a dancing plague?
Nobody knows.
Okay.
Some people think it's mass hysteria or, like, mass psychosis. And some scientists think that it is ergot poisoning.
Okay.
Being a whiskey guy, do you know what ergot poisoning is?
I don't.
Okay, so ergot is a fungus that grows on grains. It grows on a lot of grains, but apparently it's a red kind of fungus.
Okay.
And, you know, a lot of the grains are paler in color, so people tend to catch that. Like, they see, like, something's wrong with that.
Yeah.
But rye, I guess, grows darker.
Yep.
And so they don't catch it as often, so a lot of times people get ergot poisoning from rye.
Okay.
And so it's a fungus. And according to, like, nowadays medical journals, right, some of the symptoms are convulsions, dizziness, hallucination, and psychosis. So there's some thought that that is what causes dancing plague, but we don't know. There's also thought that part of the Salem witch trials, like the people that they thought were witches, actually had ergot poisoning.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is why they were having convulsions and psychosis and hallucinations.
I want a sushi plague, where I just eat sushi every day. Until I can't stop eating sushi. Can we do that?
All right.
What would I have to eat to make that happen?
I don't know.
Okay. Look it up.
So, dancing mania is another theory.
Okay.
And then the last theory I came across is the locator theory. And it's locator like Lokator. Locator. And
It's
so
probably the German spelling of locator. Okay,
so, apparently back then, when you wanted to start a new town, or like you had something happen and your town ended up with not so many people in it, landlords could basically hire a guy called a locator to go to other towns and recruit people and be like, hey, come live in our town. We've got a lot of openings. Come live in our town. And apparently, a lot of times these guys would dress in brightly colored clothes and play music when they got to town to like show, like, "Hey, we're here. Come talk to us."
Like it's an ad, kind of like, "Oh, look, we're super fun. Look how we dress."
Right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So some people think that these children were maybe not children, but like children of the town, like you'd say, like native son or whatever.
Oh, or like, what if they were like 18, 17, 16?
Right.
17? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that they followed this locator guy out of town to go build a new life. And some evidence for this is that apparently at that time, the area that is Berlin now had been occupied by the Danes, and they had left. So Berlin was kind of getting started. And apparently, if you look in the Berlin phone book, there are a lot of last names that are generally associated more with Hamelin.
Okay.
So there's people that have last names like Hamelin, da-da-da-da.
Hamilton.
Same with, apparently there's some people in Poland and in Transylvania that have the same deal, where there's a larger concentration of last names that would traditionally have been from Hamelin, Germany. So that is another theory. Okay, so those are basically the main theories. So we've got basically some sort of natural disaster, whether it was landslide, flood, or plague. Which, speaking of which, did you hear a guy died of the plague last week?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Okay, so...
Oh, wait, hold on. In case people are listening to this in the future, what?
Okay, so we're recording in July of 2025.
So this would have been late June 2025?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think so. And a man... it may not have been a man.
A person.
I don't know that they released any details. In Arizona, died of the plague. Came to the emergency room complaining that they couldn't breathe, and they couldn't save him.
Jeez.
Right? I know. Okay, crazy to me. Okay, so we've got natural disaster, flood, plague, landslide, something like that.
Yep.
We've got a children's crusade. We've got pagan/Christian festivities. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Dancing mania.
Okay.
Or the locator.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I still like my thought that it was the devil. If I have to vote, that's what I'm going for.
So what do you, like, the devil, like, what happened to the kid? Like, the devil didn't come up and take children.
You don't know?
I don't know.
When was the last time you talked to Lucifer and asked if he was into stealing children?
I mean, there is one writing that talks about it being, like, a pedophile murderer. But that's a lot of dang kids to lead out of.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's just interesting to me that... Like, is every execution place called Calvary? I hate that word. Right.
But I will point out that this particular, where that cavalry came from.
Sorry, Calvary. I'm doing it to you.
I know.
Sorry.
Calvary,
yep.
cavalry. I get it. Yeah. So in that particular footnote, it was in a religious book.
Yep.
And at the end, they did mention the verse. What's that verse where it's like the wailing and gnashing of teeth? In the Bible, you know what I'm talking about?
That's Revelation, right?
I don't remember,
okay.
But they mentioned one of those verses. So obviously, whoever was writing this
had a religious
strong
okay.
religious
I
connection.
see. Yeah.
But I mean, I get what you're saying.
Well, just like going east, wasn't that like the Garden of Eden was in the west, right? And then didn't the demons go east?
I thought demons went west.
Did they go west? You don't have to look it up. I'm just spitballing here. The whole thing, I mean, guy comes in, steals children, so steals the innocent, the ones that Jesus said should come to me, and you have to be like these children to get into heaven, yada, yada, yada. I mean, it certainly seems like some devilish propaganda was grafted onto this whole story, which I find interesting, and actually, I mean, very much in line with the ruling kind of storytelling of the day, I think. So I find that fascinating. But of everything you said, of all of your theories, which seem to be based in a lot less, like spiritualism and speculation than I expected on this episode. But I think the locator theory is the only one that makes sense.
It does, and that's kind of what I thought too, except for, like, if it was a locator, like if somebody came here and were like, hey, you should move to blah, 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 and do the, and like Ethan and Gabby went away.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we have telephones and things now.
Yes.
But if we didn't, I feel like we would have been like, okay, well, we'll come too. Like, if you want to keep your family together.
We have our business here. We've got our ship. We've got a merchant stand on the port. Like, our livelihood is here.
But it seems...
But if it's a small... We've got a smaller... Hamelin doesn't seem very large, based off the way you're describing it.
Right. And I did try and look up population, and all I could find, it came up, and it was like... The population of Hamelin in 1284 was probably far less than the 50,000 in today's times. I'm like, yeah, no kidding.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, it was 50,000 minus 130 kids, right? So it's far less, yeah. No, I mean, it seems to me like what was going on economically in Germany in 1284? Like, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, there was some talk of famines, but I don't think, like, around that particular town. The thing that
I keep coming back to, though, with that.
Yeah, you don't like the theory, I can tell.
I don't like the theory because I feel like I understand that it would be very sad if your kids left. But, like, all of the notations and the inscriptions and everything, it sounds way more traumatic than your kids just going to start a new life in a different town.
Well,
especially in that account where it was like the mothers wandered from village to village looking for their kids. Well, they would have known where the kids went.
maybe, unless the locator took some of them to Transylvania and some of them to Poland and some of them to Germany.
Maybe. I don't know. It just doesn't... Some about it doesn't sit right with me.
Okay, so which one do you like best?
Well, obviously it was Aliens.
Well, of course.
No, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
logically, the locator one makes the most sense.
Right.
I'm just saying I'm not satisfied with that answer. Like,
Yeah.
something about it...
So
it seems so much more traumatic than just your... And I understand it would be traumatic if Ethan moved away and I never was going to see him again, ever.
Which probably would have been the expectation of the time. Since,
Right.
You know, the cell phone coverage was spotty at best back then.
But I don't know. I mean, and maybe if it was... Especially if you took, like, all of the next generation of, like, craftsmen and you were
Which
worried
is-
about your town, like, surviving...
Yeah.
I don't know, but to make a window in the church based on the fact that your kids moved away, it just seems, it doesn't sit right with me. I don't know. Like, I understand that logically that one makes the most sense.
It does. Yeah, and I think I glom onto it for that reason. But you also didn't grow up in a small town. So I'm going to pull I grew up in Warrensburg, Missouri rank on you for a sec and just go. So, you know, Warrensburg, if you pull the Warrensburg, Missouri, home of the University of Central Missouri, it's where I grew up. If you were to take away the university for a moment, so the students in the university, let's take that population out, you're at 13,000 folks.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have come and taken my graduating class, it would have been about 110 people. I mean, my friends in high school largely stayed in that area. They are craftsmen, tradespeople. They are, I think, like some of them are now running the university or running health
One
systems.
of them's our insurance agent now.
One of them's our insurance agent, right? You know, and so, you know, well, it's his brother, but sure, if they took the two classes, yeah. I mean, if they would have come and taken that significant a portion of the population.
And let's be clear, that was the only high school.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because it wasn't like it was one high school out of four. That was the
Correct.
whole,
Yeah, so
it was the only high school.
Yeah.
It would have been more than your graduating class.
There would have been a gap, right? So there would have been a whole, I won't say generation, but a year's worth of people that wouldn't have gone into the workforce, that would not have contributed to the economy.
Yeah.
So to me, if I can easily paint a picture that Hamelin is a smaller river port city.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says, come to the capital and find your future and make your money and be part of... Well, there's not a Germany at that point in time, right? These are still...
Yeah.
So is that Prussia? Are we kind of in that... I mean, the German city-states kind of a thing.
Crow. It was... What was it called? Hold on. Let me look it up.
Because I can also tell a story, quite frankly, based on nothing but conjecture, that the locator may not have asked.
Well, and that's... Oh, it was part of the Holy Roman Empire.
Oh, okay. So Germany's still united for now. It hasn't devolved into a city-state.
I guess that's true. Like, maybe he walked into town and
It's like
everybody was at work or whatever, and he's like, let's go. We're
Yeah.
going right now. And, like, nobody had a chance to, like...
Or, you know, you're coming to Germany, here's my gun to show why, right? Or my badass German martial arts skills.
Yeah, I don't know.
To me, that...
I mean, that makes more sense. It would have been more traumatic that way.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, anything, if whatever this person was doing, offering incentives to come to a different city or whatever, if that many people chose to go, then, yeah, it's going to be one of those things where, you know, sadness will break out. And quite frankly, you would be wailing if Ethan decided to move to Berlin, DC,
I would just
Topeka.
follow him. I want to move too.
He's going to end up living in the Dominican. And I'll be like, I would like to live on a tropical island. Yes, take me with you.
Good. Like and subscribe to this podcast so we can move to the Dominican Republic
to a tropical island
with our son. Yeah. So I think we're a little off topic, maybe. But no, I just think that, I mean, if not that, plague, I think would be the second most likely. And while, you know, you want to explain bad things that happen.
Yeah.
And so, is it better to say, God rained a plague down on our children, or some magician came and stole?
I wouldn't get my hands on those town records. Not that I could read German, but like to see if there's any other records that say like, hey, 50 people died of the plague today, and see if there's a difference. Right. Like, well, they did mention they died of a plague here, so this is something different. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, and the other thing is, I was kind of wondering, was the Pied Piper a medical professional of whatever they had back in 1284? Like, could this have just been a dude that absolutely butchered the treatment of the sick children with a plague, right? Like, did Dr. McGillicuddy show up with his magical elixir that literally had no effect and killed a bunch of kids? And
That's an interesting theory.
And then you're like, yeah, this guy led our children to their deaths, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But it's about all we have to say about it. I guess.
Then it was UFOs, clearly.
It was UFOs.
Cue the X-Files theme.
They went through a portal. It was actually a spaceship.
That took
right?
them to
Like in
Transylvania.
Skinwalker Ranch, right? Like
we are not.
They go into a hill in the UFO.
No, we are not going to bring up Skinwalker Ranch in a medium that is supposed to be factual. If we want to go Skinwalker Ranch, then we will go shoot some rockets in Hamelin.
Oh, heavens to Betsy. All right.
We will take pictures at weird angles and be like, oh my God, aliens are true because these
anomaly.
pictures are at weird angles, even though that's how we took them.
Yeah, but if you're listening, Travis Taylor, we love Skinwalker Ranch. We just don't necessarily agree with your methods.
I can't believe how many episodes of that show we've watched. Yeah, I actually bought your book, Dr. Taylor, but yeah. Shooting rockets at things feels a little iffy.
That doesn't seem very scientific. All right, well, I guess until next time.
This has been Fantastic Footnotes.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Skinwalker Ranch. Not really, FTC. I'm just kidding.
All right, just remember, history is weird, especially if you read the fine print. Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein, copyright 1974, renewed 2002, Evil Eye LLC, used by permission.